Hi, I'm David.
And I'm Mary Beth, and we're consultants at the Texas A&M University Writing Center. The Writing Center is here to help all Texas A&M students with their writing and public speaking projects. You can find out more about us at writingcenter.tamu.edu.
In this presentation, we're going to describe the two most common types of abstracts and give you some tips on how to write them. We'll also look at a few examples to make sure you understand the basic approaches to writing them. So, an abstract is typically 200 to 600 words long and is a summary of a longer document like an article, book, thesis, or dissertation. It is usually used in academic writing. They're designed to quickly inform the reader about the document's content and scope. They're not an evaluation or critique of the work, rather, they should emphasize or highlight major points.
So the first step of any writing project is to know who your audience is. Like any written work, abstracts can vary greatly depending on their audience and purpose. Abstracts are often used by researchers and scholars who are looking for information that applies to their work. Databases almost always include abstracts. Oftentimes, researchers will only read the abstract of a work to see if it's relevant to their research. So it's crucial that an abstract be a clear, concise, and accurate reflection of a work. Abstracts are also used in conferences. Conference organizers request abstracts as part of the proposal to determine which presentations they'll host, and conference attendees will read them to decide which presentations to attend. Oftentimes, government reports, academic papers, and business reports have an abstract of the whole document at the beginning. In some cases, like in business, the abstract is called an executive summary.
Not all abstracts are alike. There are two main types, descriptive and informative. We'll discuss both kinds today. To decide which to use, refer to your assignment or ask your instructor. If you're writing for a conference, a database, or a journal, check their guidelines and look at some examples.
So first we'll talk about descriptive abstracts. They introduce the subject usually in under 250 words. And they include the purpose, the methods, and the scope of the work, but they tend to omit the results, conclusions, and recommendations. They're often used for conference abstracts so that people actually attend a session to find out the results and the general conclusions. So let's take a look at this example of a descriptive abstract. This study investigated the effectiveness of calibrated peer review, or CPR, in a senior level biochemistry class for improving students' ability to write scientific abstracts. The CPR process for feedback was compared with teaching assistant-generated feedback. Statistical analyses of 3 assignments by 50 students and a separate analysis of the abstract written by 256 students were used to measure differences in writing quality for each type of feedback. Note that this abstract includes the purpose, the methods, and the scope. The abstract does not include the results and the discussion.
Informative abstracts are slightly different from descriptive abstracts. They are more common and they provide more information. In addition to the purpose, methods, and scope of a work, which are all given in descriptive abstracts, informative ones also include results, conclusions, and recommendations. Because they have more information, informative abstracts also tend to be longer, but be sure to check with the guidelines to make sure that you're not exceeding the length. So take a look at this example. This study investigated the effectiveness of calibrated peer review in a senior-level biochemistry class to improve students' ability to write scientific abstracts. The writing quality of scientific abstracts composed with feedback from CPR was compared with the writing quality of abstracts composed with teaching assistant-generated feedback. Statistical analyses of the 3 assignments by 50 students indicated significant differences between CPR and teaching assistant feedback on student writing quality. While scores of students who received teaching assistant feedback decreased, scores of students who used CPR improved. Students also progressed over the course of a semester in CPR-generated measures of their reviewing abilities. Note that this adds findings but not significance. This is because of the emphasis of the study. It was focused on answering the basic research questions more so than any large significance.
So a good way to remember what to include in an abstract is the acronym IMRAD, which stands for Introduction, Methods, Results, and Discussion. The introduction introduces the problem and gives any necessary background or context that the reader needs to know. In the methods section, the researcher describes how the problem was approached. In the results section, the writer talks about what he discovered in the research. In the discussion, the significance, the applications, recommendations, and implications are talked about.
Abstracts also must contain keywords about what is essential in the main document. Keywords are used to classify abstracts in databases. Effective keywords allow researchers to search for your publication easily. So begin now to think about potential keywords from your own abstracts and the ways a researcher might search for your topic.
Take a moment to pause your video and review this example to see if you can identify keywords in this abstract. So the keywords that we picked out were calibrated peer review or peer review, abstracts, and writing quality.
Most abstracts include some version of the following elements: the subject, the scope, purpose, methods, results, as well as recommendations, implications or significance, and keywords. Remember to keep in mind IMRAD.
Take a moment to pause your video now and review this example to see if, based on the checklist, this abstract includes all the necessary components.
The purple text is the purpose. It's clearly outlined and defined. The author does include extra details such as the dates and what he hopes to achieve to clarify, but it is concise enough.
The blue text is the scope, and the green text is the method. The author describes what is included and what data are analyzed. Additionally, he mentions how he does this.
The orange text is the conclusion. Often, results are not included in a descriptive abstract, but he does not mention specific results and just offers a general conclusion to his research.
So as you begin composing the draft of your abstract, make sure you check for guidelines provided by the organization or journal you're writing for. Be thoroughly familiar with the document you're abstracting. Go ahead and reread the original work. Highlight any key information. Compile the highlighted information into a single paragraph without looking back at the original document. Reread the abstract for word count and make sure the sentences flow. Add transitions as needed to make it sound coherent. Next, be sure you've included all the necessary parts. Check the abstract against the original to make sure it's accurate. Then edit the abstract for wordiness and check the organization and transitions to make sure it flows coherently. Then at the very end, double check the guidelines and make sure the word count is still on point.
So remember that an abstract is sort of like an elevator speech. You should be able to clearly and concisely explain to an outsider what your study was about, how it was done, and what results came out of it. At the Writing Center, we can help you write an abstract for any context or discipline, regardless of where you are in the process.
You can find out more about us at writingcenter.tamu.edu.